And we're live, back with our second episode. I'm here with Ophir. Ophir, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm fantastic. It's another day in paradise. It's only, I'll tell you, it's only 14 degrees outside today. So
Wow.
fall has really come this year, yeah?
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell me, Ophir, I was going to ask you, what do you think about what's happening now with the new infrastructure bill?
You know what? That's a great question. The question is it even going to go through? Now, if it does go through, it's going to be a game changer in the U.S. infrastructure market. Now, why do I say that? It's finally looking at all the different items of renewal and all the different maintenance items which have been pushed back over the years. And unfortunately, everything has really bubbled to the surface of issues, including the burial of aerial infrastructure for the benefit of the nation, including, for example, the PG&E burial of their aerial transmission lines.
Yeah, I saw there was a whole section about that, like describing the project to the last detail, if I'm not mistaken.
And one of the biggest things I really find interesting within the actual whole infrastructure bill is the focus on roads and transportation and major transportation projects. So, for example, the train initiative, as we know, Joe Biden was called the Amtrak president. That is because when he was in Congress, he used to go back and forth from his constituency back to Washington every day, back and forth. So really amazing how he, the president of the United States, currently used the transportation infrastructure. And a great segue for transportation is my good friend Steaphan MacAulay. Steaphan is actually the vice president of transportation from Global Raymac Surveys. So Steaphan, welcome. I appreciate you.
Steaphan, great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, our pleasure. Steaphan comes from the Faroe land of Alberta, Canada. I believe he just lives right outside of Calgary, which is one of the largest metropolitan cities in Alberta and growing. He's in a smaller community just outside, but really on the cusp of 22X. I believe that was called the Highway of Death at one point.
You can call it whatever you want. There's been a lot of worse names for it.
Yeah. So, anyways, that highway actually went through a large transportation infrastructure renewal and rebuild. They put a lot of traffic circles in, and they really did a great job rebuilding that highway to accommodate all the traffic and all the and to mitigate all the accidents that were actually there. So really incredible. So, Steaphan, do you want to give us a few words about yourself in a couple of seconds?
No, as you mentioned, I'm with Global Raymac Surveys. I'm the vice president of transportation as well as infrastructure, overseeing the growth of the company on the construction survey side. So, been heavily involved over my 23, 24 years in the survey side of the industry, from building massive infrastructure across Canada. I started back in Prince Edward Island, as Ophir would joke, growing potatoes, and I grew up from there. So it's been a career move out west. I want to say I've been in Western Canada for 20 years. I've lived in British Columbia, Alberta, as well as Saskatchewan, but just outside of Calgary is definitely home. So here I am.
Fantastic. No, that's amazing. Now, Steaphan, I know that I'm going to ask you a few personal questions here, and we're gonna see which way you go on these. All right. All right. Golf or hockey? What's that number one thing? There we go. Yeah, talking from the surveying and engineering world. Where do most of the deals get done?
On the golf course.
On the golf course. All right. You ready for this? The keg or Casey's?
Oof.
Or even, you know what, for you Westerners, the keg or Earls?
Keg. Depending on the day. Whichever's got cheaper wine.
All right, so I'm going to go for another one. Glenlivet's or Jameson?
McAulay.
Oh, there we go, McAllen.
Yeah.
And of course, MacAulay, it sounds familiar.
Bottle behind me. I just put some coffee in my whiskey.
Wait, did you just say you just put some coffee in your whiskey? All right, well, it's a little bit early, but that's okay. like you said, it's 7 p.m. somewhere. Wait, David, what time is it with you today? Right now?
It's 7 p.m. here. So
You know what? You missed happy hour. What's going on?
yeah.
Anyway, so myself and Steaphan have we've known each other professionally, and also, well, we've done a lot of things on the community side. And what do I mean by that? Unfortunately, Steaphan is somebody who likes to volunteer for things, which I volunteer him for. So I don't know if you all know me, but I'm involved in a lot of different infrastructure organizations, and I like to get a lot of the broad range of people involved. And Steaphan, can you talk about some of the involvement of some of the committees I've gotten you into in the last couple of years?
Voluntold me to join. I don't even know where to begin. There's quite a few associations, but UESI and is the more active one that I'm involved with on your front. Nowhere near the level of involvement of you with the multiple organizations you're out there with, but just really cutting my teeth to get into those groups and understand more, as well as share knowledge is the key importance of those from what I see after starting with you, Ophir.
I appreciate that, Steaphan. Is there any personal motto, or the home crest, or anything that the MacAulays live by that you can share?
The slogan is "Live free or die."
Well, that sounds more like a Mel Gibson movie.
My family crest is tattooed on my back, so it's right there.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. So, any personal notes? Like, I know that the way we met, just Steaphan is such an outgoing personality and a vibrant personality. I know the way we met. Do you want to tell everyone how we came about our professional relationship?
Oh, jeepers. Many moons ago, previous career, we were standing out front of a hotel, Marriott downtown, I believe, next to the keg. And
Yeah.
I was on my phone, you were on your phone, and saw my previous employer's logo on the back of my phone. And that was the start of this relationship.
Classical
Yeah.
skill.
Being outgoing and always looking for an opportunity to network.
Yeah.
So the funny thing was we were actually talking about technology and the evolution of technology. And I had just come back from Israel from a project which I did on with a few different pieces of very, very integrated and very modern technology for the utility engineering world. And it was really interesting the way that these items actually converge together. So really amazing. So, Steaphan, in terms of personal aspirations, do you have anything that you want to share with us? Where you're going, what you're doing, and
Never take my foot off the gas.
there we go.
So I started. What really got me into the industry to follow suit with what you just touched on, Ophir's technology. It was in 1997. I was just graduating high school. My first summer job was a survey assistant, and I got to work on the Confederation Bridge that spans from Prince Edward Island, New Brunswick.
Wow.
And it's quite the bridge. It's 13 kilometers long. It is phenomenal infrastructure. And I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Graduated high school, of course, and then loved playing with Lego as a child. Loved the design side, the engineering side. My math skills were always strong, so I went to university for engineering after that first summer job because I learned what surveying was, and I said, how do I do this for my career? I want to play with these cool tools that these guys are doing. And when you walk away from a site, you're proud of what you built. And that was just the start of my brain spinning. And followed suit with that. Surveyed on and off through school until I finished, and then moved out west. And I surveyed in the oil and gas industry for several years. And then when they were starting Northeast Stony Trail, the ring road around Calgary, That's when I was like, okay, I got to get back into the infrastructure world, because oil and gas is great. It's good money for paying off your student loans, but to walk away from a lease or a pipeline, it's kind of okay. That's cool. I did that, but when you walk away from a massive interstate with multiple interchanges, it's like, yeah, I built that. So I
think we all can relate.
Yeah, and so that was kind of like the snowball rolling down the hill, and I started pursuing bigger opportunities within the companies that I've worked with to try and get on the massive infrastructure and put the right people on it, maintain those relationships, just keep growing, because the infrastructure is never enough in this country in particular. And the stuff that is in place, as Ophir can relate to in Quebec, some of it's extremely dated. So the career path to stay with the infrastructure side is it's never ending, right? So there's always money to be spent because it's needed with the population growth, with the urban sprawl. There's always work to be done, and satisfying work when you walk away from it with that sense of accomplishment.
Steaphan, I'm going to ask you about your favorite location across Canada, which you've worked, or even in the world. And I know you've worked right across Canada, but where is that one place which really did it for you?
That's a great question. The most scenic and enjoyable is definitely in Prince Edward Island. It's never a bad day in the summer there, because when you're done, you're on the beach. but just with respect to the work and the scenery, definitely Prince Edward Island, with the sense of workload and pace, probably Calgary or Edmonton, on either of the ring roads, some of the LRTs. It's been definitely satisfying to, like I said, walk away from that job. And my kids hate it because they're driving and they're like, "Oh, Dad surveyed that bridge. Oh, Dad surveyed this road. Dad surveyed that bridge." I'm that guy.
Do you have that? Do you have that? That surveyors use, or that locator to these, when you're walking anywhere in the world, you start looking for benchmarks and survey points and locate signs. And do you have that issue? Like, you're in Dominican Republic and all of a sudden you see a cut cross. Do you actually look at it and try to decipher what the actual, what it is?
Funny story. I went for my bachelor party to Las Vegas some years ago, and we were walking the strip, and the Las Vegas survey monuments are pretty fancy. Like, they're brass caps. They got to be the size of a compact disc, right? And they've got the stereotype of that Las Vegas sign is in the center of it. So I'm down there. I got my DSLR. I'm about 10 centimeters above it. I'm on my knees, focusing in full macro mode, and I've got one of my best friends is a surveyor. The other guy was a lawyer. The other guy, we were all sitting there, and they were all staring around. And by the time I finished taking my photo, there was a bunch of people standing around me wondering what the hell I was doing. So I get up, and they're like, "What's that?" I was like, "Well, sit down. Let me tell you." But I mean, even through Cuba, through Sweden, like everywhere I've been, you're always sizing them up. Like the biggest amount of them I've ever seen is in through Seattle. Like that city's constantly moving, so they're always looking for deformation surveys, and every street corner, all the way down the sidewalks. It's quite enjoyable to pick them out, and even my girls now, they know what they are.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah. In terms of your growth in the industry, in terms of your growth with the technology, I know that you've always been a progressive gentleman within your organizations, and change has always been a hard thing. What has been your number one go-to to actually advance the use of new technology?
number one go-to in what respect?
In terms of how do you convince your higher ups, hey, there's a new technology, hey, there's a new 360 photogrammetry system, hey, there's a new mobile LiDAR system. How do you get them to actually, bite the proverbial apple of knowledge?
Well, you got to get to use your words, the buy-in. The people that I enjoy working with are people that understand technology, and the leaders of the industry are always on the forefront of trying to get, that next step. Early adopters. With our UAV program, our drone program, whatever acronym you want to throw in there, present day, it's always revolving. We adopted that about 10 years ago. Now we've got, I think, 54 drones in our fleet. We've automated a ton of processing that we've poured our own money into to, when the boys finish their day, it hits the server, it's automated processing, registration, and then the final step is the QA, QC. So as a company, we're very progressive on the technology side. So I'm not going to say I have to sell any of that to my higher ups because they get the success that we've had over the last number of years with advanced technology. Some people out there don't like technology because they feel that it's taken away man hours in the field. And our kind of internal group says, well, if we don't do it, somebody else will. And then you have no revenue. So we've always been looking at I'm not going to say that next shiny object. When the time is right and the technology is refined, then it's time to pull the trigger. But to jump in early is definitely what we do. To be kind of that out front model, really.
In terms of your ability to sell to the clients, how do you convince a client, I have a new shiny toy, I want to use it on your project? What is that next step which you take?
It's very tough in this industry for sure, because it's so new. The 80-20 rule, some of the crowd understands the technology. The biggest one is the efficiency gains that you get with less field time, better data, more refined results that allows them to engineer their design better. So without getting too technical, you're capturing everything at one site visit versus multiple trips with a tiny portion of the data versus conventional methodology. There's still a time and a place for conventional surveys. That's never going to disappear when you're working on a structure like a bridge. You can't get away from conventional total stations and levels, right? When you're chasing millimeters, you have to chase millimeters. But with the advanced tools, for an example of like driving our mobile mapping LiDAR system, we're looking at a few projects in the hopper right now, some that we've executed. One of them is in Vancouver on the Broadway subway project. A team from Italy with Gala had approached us about using our technology because they've successfully used mobile LiDAR in a project overseas. They understand the value. They understand that we're not closing lanes. We're not putting people at risk. And the data is, I like to coin it, like, we're going to give you everything and you can extract what you need, because we're not designers. We're data collectors. So if we give you everything, then you can take out what you want. Previously to these advanced sensors, remote censored, you'd go out there and you'd pick up what the designers asked for. And they'd be, 30% through design, like, darn it, we need this, this, and this. Boom, there's a delay. You're sending a crew back to the field to pick up maybe 3 catch basins or whatever they got into. So the people that have used the advanced technology, that understand it, see the efficiency gains with respect to schedule, because when you stall a project on design, there's a lot of people sitting around, and that's not free. So if you're talking to the right people that understand it and see those benefits, it's not a tough sell. It's more.
Who do you see as the more progressive people on the design side that are open to these emerging technologies? Like who are normally the decision makers in the organization that are willing to take, I don't know if risk is the right term, but are willing to challenge their liability issues.
Challenge the norm. That's a great
challenge the norm. Exactly.
Typically, it's the construction manager, project manager level. Procurement doesn't understand it at all. They're just looking for numbers. And that's where you lose a lot of work, because you're trying to give them value add. And if you can talk to the right people in advance, you get it. But those people are the ones that are on the tech side of the design. They're on the construction management side. They understand the value of the tools and systems, as well as the safety. We're huge on safety. We've got 75, 76 survey crews going out every day. So safety's paramount in our company. But to answer your question, it's typically the 28 to 35-year-old group that is, I'm not going to call them gamers, but they're that mentality. You know what I mean? They're tech savvy, definitely tech savvy people. They understand the three-dimensional world of the problems that we can solve with those tools, and they can influence their higher ups to say, this is what we need. Look at what it can save us here, here, and here. Look at, we don't have schedule delays. We're going to deliver on time, and we're not getting anybody sitting on the side of the highway trying to survey paint line.
Yeah.
Right.
Are they having any success convincing?
Quite a few, actually. I mean, we were over at the Regina Bypass, is a province next door, Saskatchewan. Their city, they just built a massive ring road around. And for the owner's engineer, they asked us to do the final as-built of it with our mobile mapping system, because we were able to get in and out in one full day. It was about 600 kilometers of driving we did to hit every lane, but we didn't have to stop traffic. We didn't have bodies on the side of the road that were, measuring the heights of the bridge, shooting over here, shooting over there, like that risk. We were in a pickup truck just driving. And one day we collected, it was a long friggin' day, don't get me wrong. Lot of driving, couple tanks of gas, but it was a success story there, which opened the eyes, because that deliverable went to the Ministry of Transportation for that province, and their systems on the final as-built in their documentation were written in the late 80s. Actually, I have a copy of it, and it's like, what, you're gonna do what now? No. Like someone needs to step it up here. So I want to say we changed the game quite a bit for them right there, and we were able to deliver exactly what they wanted, and then some, like a lot more. So
I know this is going to sound like an abstract question, but I'm just thinking about the millions of points.
Yes.
That come in from one scan.
Yeah.
How do you even start fathoming the amount of data that's in there? Like, it just blows my mind. For each point, every second your laser is going, that's millions of points everywhere. What do you do with all that data?
You go blind. It's pretty slick with respect to the software nowadays. I can't speak to 20 years ago, because I wasn't involved in laser scanning back then. However, the system that we're driving is picking up 2.4 million points per second. So a lot of data. However, if we're driving a highway and we're picking up, if the client is just looking for the pavement for, the lane lines, crown, edge of pavement, we can crop, if you will, that data set to, buffer just outside with some automated tools within the systems to be able to, because they'll shoot 250 meters out, right? So you don't need all that noise out there. You just focus in on what you need. And then from there, you can actually decimate it down some so it's a usable file, because most people don't have the horsepower on a laptop or a desktop to even handle that data.
Sure.
So
yeah, I don't think Saskatchewan has quantum computing yet. So.
No. I mean, for comparison, I mean, if we're doing 90 kilometers an hour or 100 kilometers an hour, we're picking up per square meter. We're familiar with LiDAR, but airborne LiDAR, you get 4 to 8 points per square meter, depending on their systems. With the mobile scanner that we have, depending on how fast you go, you're getting 2,800 to 8,700 points per square meter. So you're picking up the cracks, you're picking up the rutting, you're picking up pebbles, right? So it definitely can bog a computer down if you're not careful.
I recall we did a couple of projects where, just so everyone knows, myself and Steaphan worked on a few really progressive projects over the years. And the funny thing is, with all the projects which we've done together, it's always been a client who's wanted quality over quantity. And it's really been a QBS, quality-based selection, on almost every project I've worked with Steaphan over the years. And it really took a progressive client to understand what he was getting and where he's going with it. But can your mobile mapping system also pick up those paint marks on the ground, like the Sioux marks per se, or the Sioux flags, and integrate that item into your survey?
Absolutely. If you can see it with your eye, we can shoot it, and you can toggle the sensors to go for reflectivity. So, of course, matte black asphalt, and you got fluorescent orange paint. It stands out pretty quick when you're looking at it, because it's all by the intensity. So it's pretty easy to pick all that up. The flags, I mean, unless there's a stiff wind blowing straight across and you're driving this way, but the way the lasers are actually dialed in, you're going to hit it, and then you can actually extract that information and put those designations in a CAD file, right? So it's.
Have you done anything lately like that, or have you? Do you have any projects you want to talk about where you've integrated different technologies, including your mobile LiDAR? Like, have you taken anything and really taken it to that next level of integrating different technologies together?
We're about to. I had a phone call last evening with a client. Project will remain nameless at this point in time due to NDAs. They're going to fly it with airborne LiDAR for the vast swath to look at the major drainage. Then we're going to supplement that with the mobile LiDAR on the roadways in this area of interest, as well as they're looking at getting the manholes and catch basins, the inverts pulled for the next phase of this project. So we'd be able to take airborne, mobile, as well as conventional survey work to integrate into one platform, one file that has definitely different sensors and tools used to combine into that one file. There's a couple that we've been in pursuit of that have integrated multiple forms of survey.
I recall a large gas facility where you integrated quite a few things together.
Yeah, that's in Hardisty, Alberta, Canada. Worked with yourself in your previous life, and we executed one phenomenal deliverable to the client. And we took a UAV or a drone to fly site to get fresh air photos. Then we integrated laser scanning of the area of interest. And then we had conventional surveyors out working with your team, Ophir, to collect the underground utilities and we delivered a three-dimensional model above and below ground that was, I'd say, it's rivals anything else out there on the market, and it was a phenomenal deliverable, and the client was blown away because if you can give them a 3D model that's above and below ground with the professionals like your team, Ophir, to get, I mean, surveyors, we hate locating pipe. We didn't go to school for that. I didn't go to school for that. And we're not good at it because we don't do it day in, day out. So when you can integrate a SUE company to a survey team, you get quite the deliverable when you do your job, you do yours, it meshes very nicely. And that technology and the teaming that went on that project was quite the undertaking.
So one thing I'm taking from everything you're saying here, it's really interesting. You're saying even though we've become so modern and everything now is done videocast, podcast, Zoom, it's still about that interpersonal connection
100%.
within all the different disciplines, and still it's that personal connection still which drives business.
Right.
No.
Yep. It's all about the teams and who you know that can do it, right? So, and that's the fun in my role is when we land the next project, it's like, okay, well, I know this person's good at that person's good at that. There's the team. And then when we run into situations or clients that we were just talking about, Ophir, to know, okay, I know your problem. I know how to solve it. I can't solve it myself, but as a team, we can solve it. And it's very much the industry now to bring those experts together that are honed in on their area of expertise, their industry, whatever term you want to throw in there. It's definitely all about don't overpromise, right?
Yeah. So I don't know if I'm dating myself, but do you remember the Motorola StarTech phone?
Oh, I can pull one out of my closet right now if you want me to.
Excellent. I'm going to ask a question really related to this. So that phone was actually originated apparently in Star Trek way back then in the the 70s, and just the vision of that, of what it was and how it evolved into the little flip phone. They imagined it, they put it out there, and all of a sudden 20 something years later, it's a reality with that little flip phone.
Right.
Do you see anything out of science fiction today that you see coming forward as that next piece of technology that you're going to want and everyone's going to have?
We talking like stupid science fiction here?
Hey, the floor is yours.
A set of goggles or glasses similar to like a VR headset that can actually penetrate the earth to see underground utilities.
You know what? That's been a common theme in our podcast, so that's really interesting. There we go. Department. Let's get that going.
Yeah, let's talk with them about it.
Yeah.
Let's back that out. We'll put some IP down here and.
No, but it's really been a theme that a lot of people have been saying that. So it's incredible how so many people in the industry from different backgrounds, like we've had an academic, we have a professional in the field, we have a couple more professors, we have a couple more different people, and everyone's going to that same direction of that visual cue.
Yeah,
so really amazing.
Well, it's
absolutely.
If you have a good model, whether it's combining an SUE company with a survey company, and you can actually render that data and model it, then you can get the augmented reality, so you can see that. But there's a lot of work that goes in the forefront to develop that model. It's really, really nice when it's completed, but the ability on the Star Trek level is to just throw those goggles on and be able to see it without any work on the front end, right? So I don't know. If Musk can develop it, then that'd be something. But
there we go. We'll tag him in this podcast as well, so maybe he'll contact.
Right.
Steaphan, tell me, we've been talking about all these awesome technologies, but what do you see at the moment are the biggest challenges of the industry that technology just isn't solving at the moment? Like it's just we're not where we should be.
Oh, that's a phenomenal question that I was.
Deep question. Sorry to be so heavy.
Um, Manpower, person power, people power,
For what?
knowledge.
What way?
It's a real struggle right now for us and my competitors as a whole to find skilled people out there because everyone's a surveyor. But to be good at it and actually want to do it is a different story. There's I'm not going to say kids coming out of school. There's people coming out of school they could be 23, they could be 43, that have an expectation of just going to work for a crazy high rate of pay with zero experience. They don't want to get the experience, they just want the money because their father or their brother-in-law, somebody's done this. But the real challenge is skilled labor, in particular Western Canada right now. There was a lot of people that were flying from Atlantic Canada, even Ontario West. And then when COVID hit and the isolation period, we would have to pay for 2 weeks in a hotel plus the meals before they could actually go to work. And as a result, the companies weren't paying for that because it was a phenomenal burden. A lot of the talent pool just got out of the industry as a whole. I don't know the percentages. That would be a very cool metric to understand. I'd throw a dart at the board, 30% of the talent pool.
Wow. That's staggering.
That might be a stretch. I can't quantify that. But there's a lot of people that just got out of it. They were sick of the ripple, right? I mean, the oil and gas industry around the globe is always up and down, depending on multiple variables we won't get into. But when the money's good on the oil and gas industry, it's really, really good. But when it's down, it's layoffs and
cutthroat.
Yeah, and you're leaving the keys in your pickup truck, calling whatever brand, say, come pick it up. That's actually happened. So those people that were sick of the ripple effect just got out of the industry, stayed home, and found a job that's consistent, right? Sure, it might not be that crazy rate of pay, but at least it's stable. And that's been a real struggle in Western Canada right now to replace that talent. Really.
Well, what are we doing to tackle this? Like both from I'd say a value perspective and both from a tool perspective, because we can't just we're not going to stop, right?
No.
Yeah.
It's definitely an education piece that we need to get out to students at a young age and teach them about the industry and the value that they bring to the world. Because right now it's
those intersections you talked about before.
Yeah. Yep. It's quite something right now to see the world as it is and it's not just Western Canada. I mean, you guys have colleagues, friends around the world. I'm sure that you're hearing about the same thing, but the skilled staff and smart individuals that are needed in multiple industries just aren't there. That's the number one problem.
It's really ironic that we build such a network up and we want to fulfill our destiny by actually taking and developing the youth, but then we treat them so poorly,
right?
When the times are bad. So it's those ebbs and flows are really what puts the shock in the system. So one thing I've seen also, and I'm going to ask you about this right now. What is the diversity like? Like, have you seen the work become very PC and diversified? And I know that's a key term, especially in Western Canada PC, not the progressive conservatives, but politically correct. I know It was a man's world in the old boys club. So what has changed there over the last 10 years?
When I started as a survey assistant, my first party chief was a woman. And I don't know how many people at my company, the ratio, but there's a lot of women in the industry. And I don't know what it would take to gain more women versus men, but the stereotype, of course, in the construction side of the world is always the big burly men, chain smoking, sipping a coffee, leaning on a shovel, right? Those days don't exist. You do that, you're skidded pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
But there's definitely quite a few women within our group out in the field that love it, right? So I think it's the way they grew up. Do they like the outdoors? Can they handle the cold? Can they handle the heat?
Yeah.
And if they are outdoorsy people, either sex, then it's a friggin' cool industry to be in.
Yeah.
But it's definitely outside of your brain. You need the capacity to do the work, but outside of that, you genuinely have to like the outdoors and be able to handle, there's the old running joke is the surveyors are made of sugar because we don't work in the rain, right? But it's not that. You can't get anything accomplished in the rain.
Yeah.
But
Steaphan, can you give me that one project which defined your entire career so far?
Confederation Bridge. Yeah. I walk away from that. In my laptop bag, there's a little medallion that I have. I can pull out right now that is from that. Every time I go through friggin' airport security, they peel my laptop bag over and they're like, what the hell's in here? And this is a chunk. Anyway, it's a cool memento. And the people that fly with me all the time, they're like, oh, yeah, Mac's getting his bag screened again because of the damn medallion from the Confederation Bridge. So, but it's I don't know. I got to survey from PEI to New Brunswick and back to do an as-built 1 year after it was done to see any deformation in it. And it was just a amazing project that started my career into we started this podcast. Just like, how do I do what these people are doing? Like, this is awesome, crazy, advanced technology, and look what's been built. So, I mean, I was just a peon in the entire project, right? Little survey assistant that didn't even know what the hell surveying was.
You were the man carrying the rod.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, the rod man.
It's definitely my monumental project that opened my eyes to the industry that started my career. I mean, this is all I've done for forever. That's all I know is how to survey.
Sorry, David, one second. You're really, right now you're working on major transportation projects. So you're working on roads, bridges, that lifeline of our infrastructure. Have you seen a lot of upswing in investment? Like, do you actually feel that we're going in the right direction?
Speaking for Alberta and British Columbia, yes. There's a lot of money being spent because it's been so long. I mean, Deerfoot is the artery that runs north-south through Calgary that you'd be familiar with, Ophir. There's qualifications out now for the teams that are tendering that project to actually fix it because it was built, I'm going to probably tell you a lie, in the late 70s, like mid-70s was when Deerfoot, you may know more than me on that, Ophir, but long and short, built a long time ago for a city that they didn't expect to grow to the size that Calgary is right now. So the on-off ramps are just garbage. The other problem is people don't know how to drive in this province. But we won't go there. It seems as though every BMW doesn't have a signal light that works. Or they forgot to buy that option when they ordered it. But that's a major infrastructure project that's going to fix a lot of that stop and go traffic. The ring roads that have been built around, I mean, Regina, Calgary, Edmonton, like the major cities, and they're not stopping. I mean, even just north of Calgary, there's a small burb called Airdrie. It's, I don't know, not small, it's a city. But there's a major interchange going across Deerfoot right now, east-west across Deerfoot. There's 5 bridges there. You're crossing main rail line because it's grown that much that they need better access in and out, because up by, you know, Cross Iron Mills over here, that interchange is just, that on-ramp or off-ramp will back up so much. So they're finally dealing with that. And there's just the highways and the volume of traffic. Cars are getting cheaper. They're more accessible to everybody. So there's more rubber on the road. There's more usage of the road, so there's more maintenance. There's more safety conscious people out there now, so they're actually putting shoulders on some roads where they were just, you know, your fog lines sitting there, and you drop your tires off, you're in the rhubarb pretty quick. But there's definitely spend. I mean, vertical infrastructure as well. We're surveying some of the key major buildings around the city of Calgary, working on some in Vancouver. We're working on the Patello Bridge right now, because that, again, is dated infrastructure. It's end of life, right? It's 50 years old, and it's, in essence, cheaper to put a new bridge up than fix the one that's ready to fall apart. Not that bad, but it's you know, the bridges alone, they're old, whether it's just a rehab job or a replacement job. Throughout the country of Canada as a whole. I mean, jeepers, the province I grew up in, there's some bridges out there that are all creosote tied, crappy little bridges across little streams, right?
And the Green Gables bridges.
10-4, yeah.
So just for everyone's context, PEI is a very small island. I think you can traverse it in 2 hours, tip to tip. Am I correct?
It's 3 1/4, yeah.
Oh, 3 1/4. 2 if you're driving like an Israeli, but we're not going to talk about
that.
Okay, but 3 1/4, tip to tip. And it is such a fantastic place. It's green all the way in the center. It has a lot of agriculture. And there's the capital is Charlottetown, a really fantastic city. A lot of tourism goes there as well, a lot of cruise ships. And it's really, I believe it's called the forefather of Canadian Confederation. Yeah, so that's where Canada came together. So just a little history lesson as well, talking about infrastructure. And speaking about that, Steaphan, who is that one person who really influenced you in the infrastructure world and really, you know, broadened your mind, or your infrastructure hero per se?
It was an old boss. He's recently passed away in a collision down in Mexico a couple of years ago. He was my mentor to get me into surveying bridges at the next level, and that's all he'd done in his career. Is, you know, he had his own earth moving company for a while, but then got into surveying, and that was his passion, was finding other people that genuinely loved surveying, to share knowledge, tips, tricks, you know, life experiences. It was phenomenal to learn from him, because where I went through school to survey, he went through school of hard knocks. So the methods that he would use were not conventional per se from a textbook. And he understood surveying to the nth degree, like phenomenal history of surveying. But I'm like, how do you do that? Like that, I've never thought about it this way. And to have those conversations, he's like, well, why would you do it that way? What are you doing? And I'm like, explain my way, explain his way. And then you kind of meld those two ideas together to come up with the best way. And that's what I love about the industry now, is I'm sharing what I know. Is it the best way? Absolutely not. Maybe it is, but I'm not going to tell you this. I'll tell you how I would do it, but you tell me how you would do it and figure out the best way. and that knowledge sharing came from him. It definitely opened my eyes to the way there's so many passionate people in the industry, but there's so few that actually want to go do it.
That's incredible. I also, I look at the past to see the future at all times. I try to always learn from what I've done before to really go forward and set my course. And you've just solidified what I've always been thinking, that taking different opinions and melding them together and coming up with that conscious collective is really the way. And, Steaphan, I'm going to give you credit where credit is due. You've always been a person with an open mind and always looking at the different things and how to actually work with them. And one of the things I'm going to talk to you about right now is the way, how do you receive all that information? How do you process that when you're getting thrown new technologies and thinking, how am I going to integrate this into my survey world? What is your process?
Conversation. Definitely. I mean, there's so many tools being thrown at us from multiple vendors out there because theirs is the best, or theirs is the fastest, or theirs is whatever cliche they've coined for that tool in particular. But having grown up in the survey industry to see technology change from, jeepers, when we were surveying that Confederation Bridge, we actually partnered with a company from Halifax, Nova Scotia that had GPS, because it was, what the heck's GPS, right? It was military grade stuff that, it controls missiles, and oh my gosh. And so to see, a GPS system in, jeepers, I'm getting old, 25 years ago. It was quite something. And now, the device I'm talking to you on has a GPS chip in it.
Yeah.
So to sit there and analyze it, look at it, see how it incorporates into us, or our group, or our team, or the industry as a whole, it's a lot of talking amongst your peers to see, one, will it actually bring value to the company, and two, how much revenue will that bring in because we've got the latest and greatest. Maybe it's not ideal. There's a lot of conversation that goes on before. We'll put a business case together, present it to the board, and have that conversation and explain the whys, because it's always why.
In terms of your public outreach, what are you doing right now? Are you involved in any committees? Are you involved in any conferences coming up? Are you going to be doing anything to educate high and wide, or you're now just head down, let's keep on going?
A bit of both. We're actually, as much as we can, involved with the schools across the country of Canada for where they actually can get, whether it's a diploma or a degree in geomatics. We're definitely involved on that front to educate the kids coming through school. On the initiative side, it's quite the need, as I alluded to earlier. So we're in touch with all the universities and colleges across the country right now, and had an email late last night about a career fair coming up at the University of New Brunswick in Fredericton, where they have a geomatics engineering program, because there's just not enough people out there to perform the work. So I did sit on a committee with one of the manufacturers of our chosen instruments, Trimble, navigation equipment. So they manufacture our total stations as well as our GPS, but it was a really neat group called Trimble Trusted Advisor Program. And there was a dozen of us from around the world. There was myself from Canada. There was a guy from the east and west of the United States. There was a guy from Scotland, Sweden, two guys from each side of Australia, Chile. There was we would sit in the room, and Trimble, as the manufacturer, would sit there and say, "Hey, what's next? What do you guys need?" So we'd sit down with the developers straight from scratch, and we'd always meet at their headquarters in Denver. Closed doors, black boxes, and kind of work with them, whether it was software or hardware related. And then after it's actually developed, they deploy it out to us around the world to beat the snot out of it, for lack of a better term, test it. You've got climates in Australia that's 50 Celsius above. You've got climates in Canada that's minus 40 Celsius.
Hang on. You also have 50 Celsius above in Lytton, BC, before it burns down.
Right. So it was really neat on that front to put the equipment through the paces, the software through the paces. That was a cool initiative that I was involved in over my career. It was really neat to see it on the forefront and put it through the paces. But yeah, our biggest initiative now, to answer your question in a long-winded fashion, is recruitment.
So trying to build the future of the company through educational process. I know this. I'm gonna revert back to something you said before. You said that surveyors are like sugar cubes. They melt in the rain. With climate change and what's going on, do you find you have more actionable survey days versus less, or how do you find that right now?
No, it doesn't affect us, because the job must go on, as the mail must be delivered. I don't know of any days where, I think last winter maybe we had a couple days where it was too cold. Our biggest problem is our batteries. Of course, when it's minus 45, you don't want to go to work to begin with, but your instruments definitely don't want to go to work at minus 45. Your batteries freeze up so fast, and you're cycling through batteries. You're not getting anything accomplished. But to answer your question with respect to how many days I could report back, but it's not much. This summer we haven't had much friggin' rain, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's been really hot and dry.
So to expand on that, this year has been a very big year of extremes.
Right.
Extreme weather is going from a minus 50 for weeks on end in the prairies, to Dallas, Texas, getting a massive snowstorm, to Lytton, BC, getting 50 degrees for 3 days. Being the hottest place on earth for 3 consecutive days was in BC, which is incredible.
Unreal.
It's just such a massive thing, and the environment's changing. We're adapting going forward, and I'm really, really happy to say that people like you who are leading the industry will adapt, overcome, and achieve. So you guys are going to thrive in this industry, and I'm glad to see people like yourself, Steaphan, in the industry, David, and all the progressive thinkers. And this is really what our webcast is about here. It's about candid conversations with the industry leaders. And Steaphan, I consider you an industry leader. One last question. What was the most fun you had at any conference, or just that one thing that stands out, just a good time at work?
I'm pretty sure it involves you and I in Vancouver.
We can't say that joke right now because it's a PC joke, but
don't say that joke. Don't say that joke.
Anyways, our hour has come to an end. Steaphan, I really appreciate it. On behalf of myself and all 4M, and also the candid conversations with our industry leaders, I do appreciate you taking this conversation. David, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, it's been really insightful, Steaphan, and I really hope that we continue this sequence of amazing guests. So so
it's been getting better every time. So there we go.
Steaphan, thank you so much for your time, and thank you to all our listeners for joining us today. So have a great evening, everyone.
Conversation
for having me on.
With infrastructure professionals. Steaphan.
See you next
Steaphan,
episode.
reached, by the way. Steaphan, you want to give us your email address where you can be reached?
Yeah.
To
Or
the crowd?
LinkedIn, or like, what's the best way to find you? I guess is what.
I can shoot it to you.
Okay.
For the visual meeting, LinkedIn, email.
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
We'll put a LinkedIn link in the comments. So and that's
S MacAulay, SMACAULAY @grs.ca.
There we go. There are not too many Macaulays.
Macaulay like it's on my back. Danger is sweet. That's what it says underneath. That's my family motto. So,
awesome.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
Awesome.